Hey everybody, welcome to Nathan Crash Gets Bodied by the Internet. Maybe I should do that in a hello everyone. Welcome to Nathan Crash Gets Bodied by the Internet. Today we're reading scary stories from Reddit. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. That's my intro. Hey everybody, it's your boy Nathan Crash. Welcome to Nathan Crash Gets Bodied by the Internet. This is the second episode in our series. I hope you're as excited as I am. So the first episode, I read 2 stories off the internet. I might be reading 2. We're just gonna see how this goes. A quick rundown of what's going down. So how this works: I read the scary story, I give my thoughts at the end, and I give it a review. I give it like a 1 through 10 review. Go ahead and leave your review and your thoughts on the story or stories that I read in the comments below. Feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, click the bell because then you'll be notified whenever I upload videos and whenever I go live on YouTube. And that's about that. So the story we're going to start with today is called Hunted on the Pacific Crest Trail. So let's just dive right into it, I guess. Alright. This story ended up being much longer than I originally anticipated, and I apologize for the long read. I will say that in all the years I've told this story, people usually respond, "That's the craziest thing I've ever heard." So I hope you take your time to enjoy it. This story occurred in the summer of 2008. I grew up in Oregon and was acquainted with the outdoors at an early age. My favorite hobby came to be hiking, particularly in areas that are either very dangerous or isolated. The health benefits of hiking were secondary to the thrills of walking the edges of exposed cliffs, being in cougar and bear territory, and knowing that I was far from help. Into the Wild was released in the fall of 2007, and I immediately fell in love. Being a high school senior, I could barely go another week living in my parents' house. The movie spoke to my sense of adventure and it inspired me to hike the California portion of the Pacific Crest Trail upon graduation. I made it from the Mexico border to Northern California without much incident. I saw rattlesnakes and black bears, experienced dehydration, but nothing happened that made me fear for my life. Somewhere in Lassen National Forest in northeastern California, I walked around a bend in the trail only to be startled by 2 people sitting on a rock dressed in nearly all white. Their faces were dirty, their appearances disheveled, and the man had a long unkempt beard. Both seemed to be in their 40s. They looked like the couple who kidnapped Elizabeth Smart. What struck me as odd about the encounter, other than they looked like people who kidnapped someone else, was encountering anybody at all. I frequently went days without seeing a single human being. Their white clothes could be explained away by the need to escape the California summer sun. Their scruffy appearance could be explained away by the fact that most through hikers abandon personal hygiene on the trail. After I said hello, they said nothing and simply watched me as I passed. Even that I didn't find odd. I chalked it up to them being foreign and not knowing what to say. Alright, let's scroll down a little bit. I camped a few hundred yards off the trail that night, as I always did. Following bare precautions, I hung the leftover food I had cooked that night from a tree approximately 5 feet from the ground. Packing up camp in the morning, I noticed the food wasn't there. I immediately thought a bear had entered my campsite, so I began to look for paw prints. I didn't find paw prints, but I did find boot prints circling the campsite, 2 pairs of them. One of the pairs led right up to the rope from which the food was hanging. I thought of the couple I had passed earlier and everything clicked. I quickly packed up and left. My mind was racing the entire day, but I figured the couple was simply hungry. If they had nefarious intentions, they would have come for more than the food. Okay. Several days passed, and my mind was at ease again. I had begun to circle my campsite with sticks to wake me in the event of intruder, animal or otherwise. I woke in my tent one night to the sound of those sticks crunching. I grabbed my hunting knife. I tried to relax by telling myself that in the middle of nowhere, the source of that noise is much more likely an animal than a person. Then I heard frantic whispering. It was impossible to tell which direction the voices were coming from. Being in the dark, surrounded by trees 100 miles from the nearest city, plays tricks on your senses. I debated yelling out, claiming to have a gun, but instead decided to be silent and retain the benefit of surprise. I heard footsteps circling my tent and was ready to slash and whatever opened it. But just like that, it was over. No more footsteps, no more whispering. I lied frozen awake in my tent until sunrise and opened my tent to find nobody there. The only evidence something had actually happened were boot prints, same as before. Several more days had passed, and I was now in Shasta National Forest, probably 50 to 75 miles from where I first encountered the couple. The trail became more... Oh, fuck. God damn it. Of all the things in the world. My bad. That was really unprofessional. That was an alarm for earlier to start recording. And that's what happens when you record early, people. Where was I? 50 to 75 miles from when I first encountered the couple. The trail became more or less of a goat trail. Being on the side of a mountain and above the tree line, I could see the trail winding for miles in front and behind me. I stopped for water in the rare shade and noticed two hikers miles behind me. All I could see were two white dots moving along the mountainside. I immediately said out loud, "Fuck this trip is over," and pulled out my map and looked for the nearest town, which appeared to be Castella off I-15. The only problem is that it was 25 miles away. I hiked well into the night to gain as much ground as possible. I kept losing the trail and decided to set up camp, this time far off the trail into the forest. I got in my tent and tried to sleep, but every little noise kept me awake. Alright, this is getting fucking good. After a few hours in my tent, I heard the telltale signs of another bad night. The footsteps, the whispering, the sticks breaking. Sound travels far in the absence of other sound. I knew they were close, but I wasn't sure how close. All I could think was, this is fucked. This is so fucked. God damn it. Finally, a flashlight hits my tent, lights up the whole thing, and goes dark. I unzipped my tent and climbed out, carrying my knife, yelling nonsense into the dark. It was sort of like that cliche scene where people in the wilderness hear sticks breaking around them and the camera pans around the trees because the people have no idea which direction the sound's coming from. Then I hear footsteps running towards the tent and I barely made out a figure moving in my peripheral vision. I turned and ran deep into the forest. I tripped several times and ran into several trees. After running for approximately 5 minutes, I stopped, rolled, and came to rest next to a downed tree. I got under the tree trunk and laid still. I saw a flashlight moving around in the distance. I laid under that tree for hours. I was certain they were gone but didn't move. Eventually the birds started chirping and I knew sunrise would come soon. Once I did, I made my way back to the trail, abandoned my campsite, and walked the rest of the distance to Castella, where the Pacific Crest Trail crosses I-5. I hitchhiked my way to the town of Mount Shasta and spoke with the police and Forest Service. They put me up in the motel for the night, and my parents drove from Oregon to pick me up the next day. I followed up with the police and the Forest Service months later, who told me there had been similar reports of items disappearing from campsites throughout the surrounding national forest. However, there had been no reports of the terrorizing that I experienced. As far as I know, nothing ever came from that couple. Okay. That was pretty fucking weird. Yeah, that was pretty weird. I didn't like that. Okay, so let's take a second to think. Um, let's see. This one's gotta be like that's like a 7. That's a solid 7. That's creepy as hell. Like, one, that's part of the reason why I don't like camping anymore, because of weirdo people like that. Because you hear like little horror stories like that, but that sounded pretty freaking bad. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think 7.5 is probably where I'm gonna leave that. So a lot of the comments are like, yeah, this shit's creepy. So it's good to see I wasn't the only one who was like, oh, this is creepy. I'm not a little baby. Yeah. Good job to whoever wrote this, because this was a really good. This was really good. Like, it never got ridiculous. Like, that's the thing. A creepypasta, or, I'm not saying that this isn't true, but if this is true, this is pretty scary. But even for like a written story, it's scary because it never hits that level of ridiculous. Like, even in his moment where he's like, I'm gonna stand up and like show these guys what's what. He doesn't even know what he's doing, and he just ends up having to run off and hide. Like, it doesn't get ridiculous. He's not like, oh, and then like I Bear Grylls my knife into like a machine gun and like lit up these dudes, and they ended up being demons and like got their powers or whatever. Like, it didn't turn that level of ridiculous, which is really easy to find in like some of these stories where they just kind of jump off the deep end. I feel like this one didn't do that. So this was definitely a 7.5 for me. 7.5. Go ahead and leave your ratings in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think of the series. I've been really excited to do this. I have another one of these that I want to do pretty soon. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna do another one of these pretty soon. I'm gonna try to do them pretty frequently, not too infrequently, but we'll see. Yeah, but there we go. Just like, comment, subscribe, share my channel. That stuff always helps, and it's greatly appreciated. You guys have a wonderful night, day, whenever it is, wherever you are. Yeah, it's whenever it is, wherever you are. Have a good night, or whatever. I just literally just covered that. Just have a good one, guys. Be safe out there, and try not to get bodied. And don't go hiking in the woods by yourself. Alright. Take care, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.